Only in the House of Windsor does a king battling cancer decide his biggest priority is tea with the son who sold him out to Netflix. Tonight, the palace walls tremble not from ceremony, not from tradition, but from betrayal. King Charles, frail yet defiant, opened Clarence's house to the one man his heir swore must never return, Prince Harry. Cameras rolled, headlines erupted, and the question burned hotter than ever: why would a king choose the prodigal over the crown prince? Ultimate betrayal. Charles cleared his diary, skipped royal duties, and offered Harry a seat at the table while William, the future king, was left standing outside in the cold. One aide told the press it was simple. The king chose Harry over William, full stop. And that choice has split the monarchy wide open, setting father against son, brother against brother. Forget reconciliation, this is war dressed up as family tea. As night settled over London, the golden lights of Clarence's house glowed against the darkening sky, and through its gates rolled a black SUV surrounded by flashing paparazzi bulbs. Inside, unmistakable even in silhouette, was Prince Harry the exile, the rebel, the very man who cashed in on Netflix deals by spilling his family's secrets. For 19 long months, the palace insisted this day would never come, and William himself fought ferociously to keep it that way, declaring that his brother must remain in exile. But here it was, unfolding in real time. The iron gates opened, and the man who scorched the monarchy in print was back inside royal walls. It was the kind of bombshell that leaves jaws on the floor, because this wasn't reconciliation, it was infiltration. This wasn't fatherly forgiveness, it was betrayal, dressed up as a family meeting. Even seasoned royal commentators couldn't hide their shock, one admitting on live television, the meeting that no one wanted to take place is happening. In that single moment, King Charles signaled that he was willing to choose Harry over William, and the monarchy itself crossed a line it may never be able to uncross. Officially, King Charles was in London for cancer treatment, his health fragile, his schedule tightly managed. Yet whispers quickly spread through the palace corridors. The king had cleared his diary. No state meetings, no pressing duties, just one appointment, one face-to-face that nobody thought would happen. And the choice stunned insiders. Instead of prioritizing the heir who will one day rule, Charles carved out time for the son who had torn the family apart. One royal commentator on Outspoken called it absolutely appalling, and warned, Harry is dangerous. You can't trust him at all. Still, Charles pressed on. The optics? A disaster. The symbolism? Explosive. By bending protocol, the king gave Harry something priceless: recognition, credibility, the chance to boast that he was still part of the royal fold. And that's why critics branded the moment for what it was: a shocking display of weakness. Aides muttered it felt as if Charles had chosen Harry over William, full stop. The crown prince was left out in the cold, while the runaway duke waltzed back in. And that, more than anything, looked like a monarchy surrendering to chaos. The news hit Kensington Palace like a thunderclap. Prince William, polished in public, but volcanic in private, was blindsided by the revelation that his father had gone through with the one meeting he had fought hardest to prevent. For months, William made his position crystal clear. Harry must remain in exile, barred from the inner circle of the monarchy. And now, that line in the sand had been erased in less than an hour. One palace source described William's reaction as icy fury, and commentators didn't hold back, calling the move a betrayal on a Shakespearean scale. Headline moment: the heir to the throne, humiliated by his own father. To William, this wasn't about jealousy, it was about principle. After all, this is the same brother who trashed Kate in print, accused her of bigotry, and turned private grievances into best-selling spectacle. To Charles, it may have been a gesture of mercy, but to William, it was nothing less than sabotage. And as one furious royal watcher put it online, reconcile as a parent if you must, but never at the expense of the crown prince. This was a disgrace. In that instant, William wasn't just angry, he was undermined, his authority shattered, his future throne suddenly overshadowed by a father's weakness. Inside Clarence's house, another twist unfolded. Queen Camilla, the so-called wicked stepmother Harry once mocked in spare, refused to step aside. Despite Harry's long-standing insistence that she should never be present, she sat firmly in the room, poised and composed, determined to shield her husband. One royal expert explained it bluntly: she's insisted on being in all the meetings. He's tried to say, I don't want her here, but she's refused. She's the only one he really listens to. For Harry, her presence was more than uncomfortable, it was a reminder that his father's loyalty would never come without her watchful eye. And for Camilla, this wasn't about courtesy, it was about control. Critics noted that she is remarkable at handling Charles, and by staying in that room she became the firewall between the king's fragile state and Harry's relentless manipulation. It was a quiet showdown, a silent battle of wills across a tea table. The queen who had clawed her way into acceptance versus the son who once branded her a schemer. And in that moment, Clarence House wasn't hosting a reconciliation, it was hosting a standoff. Behind the polished facade of Clarence House, whispers grew darker. Courtiers and commentators alike suspected this meeting had little to do with reconciliation and everything to do with timing. Charles was ill, his reign fragile, and the clock was ticking. For Harry, that reality was opening a chance to secure what he could before William eventually took the throne, because everyone knew the heir would never forgive. One royal biographer, Angela Levin, didn't mince words, calling Harry dangerous, and insisting, you can't trust him at all. To her, this wasn't a son checking on his father's health, it was a cold calculation, a grab for leverage while the king was still alive. The suspicion ran deep that Harry and Meghan were pressing for apologies, titles, even financial guarantees, knowing full well William would never bend once the crown was his. It was less a reunion than a ruthless strategy session disguised as a family visit, and the idea alone sent a chill through the palace. Even before the tea went cold, the cameras outside Clarence House were already snapping away, as if someone had slipped them the exact time and place. And let's be honest, who always seems to have the paparazzi in the right spot at the right moment? Harry, of course. Royal biographer Angela Levin practically rolled her eyes on live TV, warning, he will leak something. He will not be able to help himself. I think he even tipped off the paparazzi. And sure enough, ITV's Chris Shipp, branded by critics as one of Harry's propaganda allies, miraculously confirmed the exact length of the meeting, 55 minutes, not a second more. Convenient, isn't it? The king may have thought he was tossing Harry a bone, but Harry turned that bone into a press release. It didn't matter that the meeting was short, strained, and probably awkward. Harry already had what he wanted. Headlines screaming that he was back inside Clarence House. In the court of public perception, the truth didn't need to matter. The photo op was the victory. And William? He wasn't just excluded, he was humiliated, forced to watch his brother strut away with a smirk and a headline tailor-made for Netflix. For Prince William, the image was nothing short of humiliating. His father, the king, welcoming back the brother he had fought to keep in exile, while he himself was left on the sidelines. It wasn't just a private slight, it played out in public, in real time, under the full glare of cameras. Tom Sykes of The Royalist reported bluntly that William had made it abundantly clear he didn't want Harry seen, heard, or entertained by anyone in the family. Yet Charles ignored him, choosing optics that made the heir look powerless. And powerless is not a word any crown prince wants attached to his name. The irony is painful. William has spent years projecting the image of stability, the dutiful future king, and then overnight he's cast as the man who couldn't even stop his own father from rolling out the red carpet for a runaway duke. Online royalists fumed, one writing, reconcile as a parent if you must, but don't tie William's hands and make him look weak. This is a disgrace. And they weren't wrong. To Charles, the meeting may have been a gesture of fatherly mercy, but to the world it looked like a royal slap in William's face. The crown prince, future defender of the realm, reduced to the background while his tabloid-friendly brother stole the spotlight yet again. If humiliation had a headline, this was it. As if the humiliation of William weren't enough, Clarence House quietly exposed an even deeper fracture. The monarchy itself was splitting into rival camps. On one side, the hawks led by Charles's hardline aide Clive Alderton, the man Harry mutually loathes, who insisted Harry must remain a permanent outcast. On the other, the doves fronted by Sir Theo Rycroft, a diplomat parachuted into Charles's team who whispered that reconciliation was the way forward. Translation? The palace wasn't united, it was eating itself alive. A friend of the king cheerfully told the royalists that Charles was delighted by the encounter, even suggesting Harry might have apologized. Delighted? Really? After a 55-minute tea that looked more like a hostage exchange than a family reunion? Meanwhile, William was livid, reminding anyone who would listen that Harry's sins, especially the accusations against Kate, were unforgivable. And here lies the punchline. Charles was suddenly cast as the monarch who forgives anything, while William emerged as the heir who forgives nothing. One commentator summed it up with brutal clarity: once you're out, you're out. But apparently not if you're Harry, because the king bent anyway. So instead of a show of unity, the world saw what it really was. A monarchy at war with itself, run by a father desperate for peace and an heir sharpening his knives. A royal civil war, and it's only just begun. In the end, the grand reunion amounted to just 55 minutes, barely long enough for a pot of tea and a polite photo op. No breakthrough, no apology, no warm embrace. It was theater, nothing more. ITV's Chris Shipp, often accused of running cover for Harry, conveniently confirmed the exact timing down to the minute, as if the stopwatch had been set by Harry's own team. Courtiers scoffed that Charles had simply thrown him a bone, a token gesture that meant little to the palace but meant everything to Harry. And here's the sting. While the king may have viewed it as harmless, Harry turned those scraps into a full-course propaganda feast. In America, he can now brag, "I'm still in the royal fold," waving that Clarence house footage like a trophy. Meanwhile, William is left seething, forced to watch his brother transform a 55-minute courtesy call into an international headline. It was the ultimate farce, a meaningless meeting spun into a victory lap. And in the ruthless game of optics, Harry once again walked away looking like the prince who won, while the monarchy looked like the institution that blinked. By nightfall, the spin was already in motion. Harry had his headline, his proof, his golden souvenir. The king met with him, the doors of Clarence house opened, and the cameras caught it all. In California, he could sell the story as a triumph. "I'm still part of the royal fold," a poisoned victory wrapped in glossy PR. But for the monarchy, it was another self-inflicted wound. Tom Sykes of The Royalist warned that this clash, Charles eager to forgive, William determined never to, could mark the start of the next great royal conflict. Angela Levin went further, insisting Harry couldn't be trusted, predicting, "He will leak something. He can't help himself." And that's the bitter irony. What looked like a small gesture of fatherly compassion may well turn into yet another tabloid feeding frenzy, courtesy of Harry himself. So here we are, a king branded weak, an heir left humiliated, and a prodigal son parading a hollow victory that leaves the family more fractured than ever. In this twisted royal saga, Harry may have won the photo op, but the monarchy lost the plot. And so the dust settles for now. King Charles chose Harry over William, a decision that looked like mercy but felt like betrayal, a father's embrace that doubled as a dagger to the heir. The meeting may have lasted less than an hour, but its consequences will stretch far longer. A monarchy split, a future king humiliated, and a prodigal son emboldened. The real question is not what happened inside Clarence house, but what happens next. Does Charles keep bending until the crown itself buckles? Does William harden into the unforgiving monarch in waiting, sharpening his resolve to never let Harry back in? Or does this poisoned victory ignite the very conflict that could define the next chapter of the Windsor dynasty? One thing is certain: the war inside the royal family didn't end with this meeting. It may have only just begun. Right finger subscribe now, because the next act in the royal drama is already being written.